Hi, everybody. I'm Chris, and today I would like to take you through an exercise that I like to do using Tabletop Simulator. If you don't know what that is, sorry, I'm not going to explain it to you because this is mostly for my benefit. But Tabletop Simulator has a really fun function called the save button, where you can save a game state and look at it later. I think it's very useful. I think it's very fun to look at game states and think about the ways that we could have improved. Well, not improved, but look at different ways that we could have addressed the situation. And so I think the best way for me to learn from these game states is to talk through them, and the best way for me to do that is to use a video. So if you enjoy it, cool. But I'm just making this for myself, so I'm gonna get right into it. So the first one that I saved is this is my Elder Toguro deck. This is a combo deck where I'm just trying to play one attack and I'm using duplers to give it 1,000 damage, and then I use Sports Festival Champ to make it so its damage can't be reduced. When I swap it, the damage doesn't get reduced, but the speed gets turned into the damage, and typically we nuke them with like a 30 mid 30. So my intent into the Godzilla deck, which is a deck that's trying to just murder me with high damage moves, is to one shot him from 34. I want to build enough duplers to just do 34 and yeah, kill him. So at this point, I'm pretty well prepared for that. I have two replicator enthusiasts in my hand. I have a dupler in my hand and a dupler in my discard pile. So when I use Sports Festival Champ on a move, I'll discard this dupler, replicator it back in, use the replicator on a second dupler, and I'll have 36 damage available to me, which is pretty cool. I like 36 damage. That kills Godzilla. Um, but my one issue, though, is that although I have all my pieces available, right? I've got an Intense Stare for a board piece. I've got Showdown in my hand for a piece on the from hand. I just don't have an attack. It doesn't exist yet. My 7 attack deck hasn't found an attack, and that happens. So I'm staring at my opponent playing Godzilla, and he's checked a few of his moves, right? He's got 2 Black Abysses gone, 2 Deception Daggers, and a Walk the Dog gone. So I kind of have seen what he has the capacity to do, and I know, like, if he draws City Rampage and 4 attacks, he's going to play 4 attacks. It's just going to happen. He's got 2 Fearsome Transformations to cycle, right? He can't straight draw, but with History's Greatest Monster, the fearsome transformations feeling cute. I am at risk of dying, right? 20 is not a lot, especially since this character puts symmetrical stats with City Rampage on his moves, right? The only moves that I'm not really worried about is this Deception Dagger, but it also gets a ton of speed and damage, and so I need to I need to be able to survive next turn. So the inclination immediately with his hand is that I'm going to keep my actions and I'll build 4, right? I could do that, right? But having looked at his discard pile, looked at the way he's played the game so far, and my assertion of what I've dealt with against Godzillas in the past is I need to be able to survive against their biggest threats, which is the Walk the Dog. So I don't want to have a huge board. I don't want to spend my whole board on Elder Toguro either, because I'm dealing with symmetrical stats and I don't have a ton of speed hate available to me. Um, so I have a couple of threads that I could go. I could try to build this defender the rear, even though it doesn't work against Walk the Dog. It can help me against their earlier moves to be able to survive with Elder Toguro. I could build I'm With You, which also functionally, gives an attack -2 damage after a swap. I could build a Struggling to try to, reuse something like a Replicator Enthusiast or a Showdown. And I could build the Embarrassment of Duplers. In this situation, I think the most threatening thing to me would be a series of Walk the Dogs after a move. So my intent here is to absorb maybe the first move and then block absolutely everything else afterwards if I can. Or get it if I can get an easy block, I will use the easy block. But I don't want to walk into a Walk the Dog string, so to speak, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build the Embarrassment of Duplers to guarantee my win next turn if I play an attack, and then I need to decide which one of these low blocks I'm going to build. I think building any of them is acceptable. Struggling with Studies is going to let me reuse some of my blocks, which is good. But how realistic is it that I'm going to be able to block his moves that are going to be getting, in an ideal situation, +2, +3 speed? I think that the best one to do is Defend the Rear here. And I've checked an attack. That's pretty cool. But I think there's if you want to reuse the Replicated Enthusiast, if you're just going to block with your Zero Mids and have your -2 speed that way, I think of it that way, that this is a 2 low block, this is a 0 mid block. This one has functionally -2 speed from hand. I could see building that. You could even build the Struggling with Studies and go into Deadlock. But I think having the 5 cards in hand is going to stimmy aggression and say, hey, I'm prepared for your shenanigans. And maybe he passes back and I kill him for free. And since I've checked an attack, it doesn't matter what attack it is, I'm going to kill him next turn. So yeah, like I said, any one of these 3 moves I think could have been built. And you could even build a third one. But I wouldn't in this situation. I want to hold as many of these low blocks as I possibly can. And I could even see building it this way instead, because this is a 2 low instead of a 3 low, right? The Struggling with Studies actually isn't all that useful from hand, but because Defend the Rear has -3 speed, it's going to make the Struggling with Studies maybe a little bit more viable as a block, let's say, before I have to block with the With You. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I think that I will win this game if I play it this way, unless my opponent has just something absolutely blistering, like Rampage, some attack that stuns me for walk the dog, walk the dog, walk the dog, walk the dog. And even then, I think I might be able to survive. Anyway, let's go to the next one. That's game state 1. I'm going to go to game state 2. So this one I'm playing, instead of a combo deck, I'm playing kind of like a scaling aggressive deck, right? That's trying to block with its face into my Annie deck that is just trying to control your board and suffocate you through the use of throws. In this situation, I'm not doing so hot into the ante. Last turn, they played a knockdown blow, and, tapped the nice tries to pass the check, and then award the victor it up. And then after that, played a Colossus Titan attacks. So we got a Colossus Titan for free, basically. We built the Cave of No Return, drew a card off the top of our deck with massive Abnormal Titan, and have a huge board. There's so many threats here for us to deal with. Struggling with Studies is really good. Broken Psyche is very good. Monster Aggression can get her out of Deadlock. Incredible to Stay with 3 momentum, a Cape of No Return, and then the Colossus Titan kind of looming over us, saying, hey, next turn, you're going to have to deal with discard 2, flip 2. So what do I do about this? My board is a lot less impressive, right? I've got this Titan in the Woods and a Knots Flask. Let's get some dice on these guys. Holy smokes, get out of my face. Give me a red one. But I'm at 4 life. I want to flip to be able to kill my opponent, but like, man, do I review this chomp? Do I flip my short-lived promotion? What is my intent next turn? And I start this at the review step because it's a really key thing. Am I gonna use this chomp or am I gonna review it? And so this happens before the draw step. So I have to decide right now. I'm going to keep the chomp in my hand on the because I want to start addressing my opponent's board, and especially this Incredible Display is the most important thing for me to deal with. So I'm keeping the chomp, and I'm going to flip short-lived promotion to try to get my opponent to respond with the Incredible Display. But they're smart and they don't do that. So I'm going to draw up to my hand size and see what I've got. I've got an Unfazed, right? Pretty good move. I've got the Attack Titan Emerges, which is also a pretty good move. And I've got a couple of extra short-lived promotions. So in this case, my opponent is going to have to do 21 damage to kill me. And even with a, 13 foundation board, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. And having, let's say this is game 2, I know my opponent has the capacity to like nuke my board with a throw Thermoblast. So I have to be worried about that, and also the fact that if they get me with a string of knockdown blows, I could very well die. So I'm going to try to play with as thin a margin to be able to set myself up for the nuke following. So I'm going to try to address the Colossus Titan, and I'm going to nuke the Incredible Display. So I'm going to start with the chomp here to kill the Incredible Display so that I can play Attack Titan Emerges on a 4. And on play, I get my response, and since Incredible Display is not there, I get to change my Titanic Combat into something like a Chivalrous, right? Because that's there is one, awesome. So I get my Chivalrous so that I can draw. It doesn't matter that my opponent's drawing 2 because they already have 5 in their hand, and I don't care if they block this because this is hitting the Colossus Titan. So I just want to make this as big as possible, draw a bunch of cards, build a huge board, and say, hey, if you do damage to me and you don't kill me, when I flip over into Reiner Braun, the other side of it, I'm going to try to blitz nuke you from orbit from my hand. So ideally, instead of giving me the Colossus Titan, I want them to use the Cape of No Return because this isn't attacking their face. But we have to see what we get with the move itself. So I built my thing. My first enhance is going to be Reiner Braun. So I'm going to mill 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I got 3 damage, which is exactly enough. That's what I want here. And we kind of set a quandary for opponent. They could use Broken Psyche, right? They could use Cape of No Return to make this not 6 damage, right? And if I were playing the Annie, I would just kind of lazily swat this out of the air, right? I would just be like, yeah, you can have the Colossus Titan, or they could use the Broken Psyche. Whatever they do, it's a use of the board. I've asked a question, and if they use the Broken Psyche, I can still not Flask it back to 5 damage. So the only realistic option for them is to Cape of No Return it. And I think that they probably don't want to use that, so I'm going to get the Colossus Titan out of it. I can also use this Titan in the Woods to make them ruin 1. And then I'm going to use the Chivalrous Competitors to draw 2 cards. And from here, I get to go off to the races. I get to build some stuff. I get to go nuts. And my board is set up. I've got an asset, a backup, and I've got my foundations. So when I flip over into Reiner Braun, Armor Titan, whatever it's called, I'm gonna have 4/4 on every single move for the rest of the game. So yeah, I'm gonna build out here 3, 4, 5. We're gonna probably play the vertical maneuvering equipment on 6. And then we'll just get this guy out of our hand. 7. Sure. And build. So I did this kind of brazenly, right? But this is because, kind of contrary to the Godzilla situation, I know my opponent is controlling me, right? As opposed to aggressing into me. So I'm going to say, hey, you have to extend into me, and if you don't kill me, I'm going to follow up by murdering the crap out of you. And I just made you use some resources, right? We no longer have the Colossus Titan available to us. So I think this is pretty good. I got to keep a block for every zone. I'm going to hopefully partial block or just take a move on the chin and then block whatever, is what might come up later and become the other Reiner for offense next turn. I've got a big board to support it. Yep, so that's this board state. Let's look at game state 3 that I've set up. In this one, I'm playing Kevin Burbrick's cool Hanji Zoe into a Byakko. And in this situation, sort of competitively, so this situation is I'm playing a toolboxy 7-hander into a grindy, 5-hander with 38 health. And so usually I want to sit back and I want to like control the game with my big, powerful 4-check attacks. But Byakko, he doesn't really know what I'm doing, but he chucked a, 15 damage falling skies for basically no effort, right? And then after that, he said, hey, man, good luck, do 30, because I did hit him last turn with a Beast Titan's attacks. Whoa, I got him, I got one up the top with a Battle Arena. So I hit him with a Beast Titan for 8, and he just said, yeah, I'll take it. So he's kind of disrespecting my offensive output, but that's a problem for me since I don't string very well. I have a bunch of these 7 and 8 diffs, 9 diffs. So what do we do as Hanji? If he draws more of these falling skies, if he draws more throws, right? Because I know that they're available to him, right? We've got Berserker Bite, Beast Summoning. Like I could be in danger here. I need to aggress, but do it safely. And since my opponent, emptied their hand, it's pretty made up for me that I'm going to be attacking them and putting as much as I can into it. So I'm looking at both boards. We have a -2 damage from a Weapons Clash if he flips something. Dangerous hybrid to use a momentum for -2 damage, which he probably will do. And on my board, I've got Weapons Clashes, which is kind of neat into Byakko because he's going to be fueling a bunch of my my flips. So I can use these, right, to do that. I got Botan's Coach, I got Button Collector, right? And then this face down that he flipped with his Byakko ability last turn is another I'm with you. So I have 4 damage, positive or negative. So here's what we're going to do. I think I'm going to play the Ravagers of War to put him back at Foundation, even though it's not discarding a card, right? The ideal situation is he held 1, but he didn't. So I'm going to play the Ravagers of War. Oops, let me put the money on the monkey. I keep grabbing those. Unfortunately, nothing for me to pick up with the monkey, but that's okay. I'm going to play the Ravagers of War. Check a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I forgot to untap that one. And here I have a great situation where I get to force him to flip or destroy a foundation, he's probably going to choose this quick response. And I can build with Hanji, duplicitous for 3 damage. I can destroy these for 4 more damage to ready my person. And I can, because this is a Titan card, I can use the monkey for further damage. Whoops. So I can, just casual 17 damage thing. That's going to allow Hanji to be available for next turn. I can use more things here. If my opponent has target flip, maybe I'll use this Botan's coaching to get rid of this unexpected outcomes or something like that. But I think that in my hand with the duplicitous and the Ravages of War, if I'm looking at what my opponent can check at me, it's gonna be a lot of these high moves and mid moves. So I didn't need that low zone move. I'm gonna try to keep maybe this potato and the unexpected outcomes and survive while forcing my opponent to respect me by putting absolutely as much damage as I could into the Ravages of War. I want my opponent to stop playing with their whole hand, because that's how they're going to kill me, right? I want them to be worried about a 17 damage Ravage of War, which is why I used both of the I'm with yous instead of keeping them for offense, right? Even though Hanji has a lot of DR, I think that in that situation specifically, I wanted to use it to pressure to tell my opponent, hey, respect my damage output. This battle arena is committed. But yeah, so this one now I get to build my immortal shapeshifters and pass it back to my opponent. I'm ready to block 3 things mid. Maybe some of them are going to be partial, but I know they're playing throws, so I'm ready. And if I checked a range move, I was going to try to pick it up with Beast Titan, but I just didn't, and that's okay. But yeah, so there's that. I'm going to get a momentum and an additional momentum from the end of the turn. It's a respite. And yeah, and I think I'm ready to survive. And I dealt 17 to my opponent, putting him to 13, right? And so now we have a game. We're ready to, go back and forth with each other. But, woo, okay. Anyway, yeah, these are examples of some of the game states that I was, I've been looking at. I conjured a few of these, and then I saved a couple of them from games that I had played previously. But I hope you find them useful. If not, I find them useful because I got to think about all the cards in my hand and all the cards that my opponent had available to them. And there's 1,000 ways to look at this, right? If I go back in time on this board state, right, I could have kept an immortal shapeshifter to like keep a high block for something like a battle aura release, right? And I could have built this potato instead. Because it could interact with something like dangerous hybrid and this turns into a thing, right? But yeah, like, or I could have played this before the Ravages Award, but I think I liked my line, and but there are a lot of different ways to play it, right? Like I said, we could keep the Immortal Shapeshifter, we could build the Bowtens coaching instead to try to like maybe swap for a different card. Yeah, cool. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful whatever day of the week it is for you when you watch this video, and yeah, have a wonderful stuff. Bye.